welcome to Stu's Guitar. My name is Simon and today you're going to learn about tabs and notes. It's useful to know tabs and notes when learning a song by yourself or in a band. The difference between tabs and notes is that tabs is something every guitar player knows, where if you ask a piano player he wouldn't know. But notes is a universal musical language that every musician knows. It's literally gonna take 5 minutes to learn about tabs, so check this video out and let's get started with musical notation. On a tablature there are 6 lines. These 6 lines represent the 6 strings on a guitar fretboard. On notes there are 5 lines, and these 5 lines is actually 5 tones. As a matter of fact, there are actually 4 tones more between the lines, and also tones over the lines and below the lines. Let's get started with the 5 notes on the 5 lines. To remember the notes, I got this phrase: every good boy does fine. So the first note you're gonna learn is the E note, and that note is placed on the 2nd fret on the D string. The next note you're gonna learn is the G note, and that note is placed on the G string. Actually, it's the open G note. The next note you're gonna learn is the B tone, and that tone is placed on the open B string. And then you're gonna learn the D note, where it is placed, which is on the 1st fret on the B string. And the last note is the F tone, which is placed on the F tone on the 1st fret on the E string. Every good boy does fine. We're now gonna look at the tones between the lines. A great way to remember the tones is by the word phrase. The first tone is a F tone, which is placed at the 3rd string on the D string. The A tone is placed on the 2nd fret on the G string. The C tone is placed on the 1st fret on the B string, and the E tone is placed on the open E at the E string. A great way to remember the notes is by taking an open F chord, where the index finger is not present on the E string, so the E string is open. F, A, C, E. So now we're gonna learn about the notes from the F tone up to the highest E tone, and that's the notes beyond the lines. And the first note is the G note. The second note is the A note. The 3rd note is the B note. The 4th note is the C note. The 5th note is the D note. And the 6th note is the E note. So now you're gonna learn about the notes below the lines. The first note is the D note, which is placed on D string and the open D string. The next note is the C note, which is placed on the 3rd fret on the A tone, A string. Next note is a B, which is a half step back on the A tone. E string, of course. And the next tone is the G tone, which is placed on the 3rd fret on the E string. The next tone is the F tone, which is placed on the 1st fret on the E string. And the last tone is the deepest D on the E tone. So symbol for a sharp is a hashtag, and the symbol for a flat is a flat case B. So when you're looking at the staff, you would see, if you're seeing a sharp tab, what the fuck, a hashtag, this hashtag means, for instance, if you're playing in the key of G, G major, and you have this hashtag in the F tone, this would mean that all the way in the song, every F would be a F sharp tone. So when we are talking about timing and rhythm with a tone, we can compare it with a cake. So if you're imagining a cake, and the cake represents time, the whole cake would be a whole note. Half the cake would be half of a note. The quarter of the cake would be a quarter of a note. So a whole note would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where half a note would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter of cake, or the quarter of the note, would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where 1/8 of the note would sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So in this example we've used the 4/4 to show you how it's built up, but you can also use 8/8, 8/4, 4/4 of course, a lot of other combinations. So guys, today you learned about tabs, learned about notes, learned the phrase called "every good boy does fine", learned a phrase called "phase", I learned the notes above the lines and below the lines. You learned about the key signatures, you learned about time and rhythm. So remember to practice this every day, 5 minutes a day, and leave a comment below and remember to subscribe.